Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. That is me. And you, all of you out there, are the co hosts of this channel who make this place a great and wonderful place to discuss all things tabletop role playing, especially our classic Dungeons and Dragons. Now, today, we're still continuing our theme for Halloween, All Saints Day, All Hallows Eve, and all that kind of good stuff. But we are going to focus our attention while we were supposed to kind of sort of talk about Halloween. We actually talked more about the horror genre in general. But today I thought we would talk about um, all the obstacles that get in our way during Halloween and how we can kind of use them in our tabletop role playing game. And I'm using the term obstacles. You can use obstacles, traps, riddles, the environment, the affectations, the objects that are around that we use and are very symbolic of this harvest season and what Halloween stands for as a huge umbrella and how we can use that in our tabletop role playing games the from the most sinister and decadent activities by the undead and witches and ghosts and things of that nature, all the way to the other spectrum where we have fun with costumes and candies and obstacle courses and things of that nature. So um, I thought we would start out with talking about obstacles and things. By the way, just as a side note, today being third pillar of exploration Thursday, of course, I have to talk about the third pillar of gaming. Now, the first two pillars kind of generally correspond to combat and social interactions or role playing. So we know combat. We grab our dice and we beat things about the head and shoulders, casting spells or things of that nature. That's one pillar. The second pillar, the role playing, the social interactions where we talk with our NPCs, we have interactions with other characters at the table, and we talk with how the other players about how their day went and pizza and such. But the third pillar is one that is both extremely broad and tends to not have a lot of support to make it extremely dynamic, and that is exploration. And exploration can come in what I kind of call three general categories. If you ever take a look at a movie of any type, there's usually three general categories that exploration takes place in. So we have our giant overview where we may not even see our protagonist. It might be we might do a flyover of a vast city or take a look at a large landscape, and it might be the Arctic North or deep jungle or caverns or something like that. And then we start to zoom in the middle ground where we get to see an overview of our entire cast of characters, maybe trudging their way through that same jungle or swamp, or you see their footsteps, trailing off for off into the distance, and our main heroes are trudging through sand dunes and being blasted by sand. And then lastly, we get down to the third portion of it, which is our characters having conflict in this particular location, whether it's on a rope bridge being attacked by by you know f- flying monstrosities, or maybe they're in a deep cave flooding with water, and maybe one or more of the protagonists are fighting giant alligators as the cave starts to flood or something like that. So we're going to talk about, or at least try to talk about, a number of those overviews, as you will. Now, uh, probably the top three, I'm guessing, because I try to not to overthink this before we come here, but I want to say probably top two or three um, large scale environmental effects. Of course, it's going to be rain, it's going to be nightfall, and it'll be fog. I mean, those are probably yeah, like Michael says, find or experience something new. Exploration. And exploration also gives us the opportunity to, like, well, go to new places and meet new people and experience new things. And I think with Halloween, 99% of the time, this stuff takes place at night. It takes place in the dark, full moon and the whole nine yards. And we of course there are rules for darkness and at night, but there's also, I think you can add into that behavior as well. Um, in the evening, people tend to go in and um, go in their homes. If this is a dark festival that has some basis in reality, they might be locking their shutters away, and it might be difficult for the player characters to find in a civilized society maybe a place to rest. Or you could add tension to this, where if the players have to travel um, from A to B within a particular time period before the city locks its doors or closes its, lifts the uh, I was about to say lifts the moat, lifts the drawbridge over the moat, and whatnot. And they may be looked at as not just enemies, but like invaders or outsiders if they start knocking on the city doors after a particular time, maybe when sunfall, the sundown hits, or there's some kind of like banner that's like raised on the parapets that they pull down when night falls or something like that. And especially if this is like during a particular season, we also often hear like solstice and uh, oh, begins with the E. Wow. Um, anyway, during particular seasonal changes, like from fall to winter, or this is the the day when it's the longest amount of night and the shortest amount of daylight, or something. Equinox. Thank you very much, there, D. I so much smarter than I am. It's solstice and equinox. I'm not sure exactly which is which, but I know that they represent time periods through seasonal changes because of an axial tilt of the planet. Now, strangely enough, in fantasy, we actually don't have to have specified axial tilts or things like that, but we absolutely use them, right? Um, let's see here. Thank you very much, there, Dead Man. And hey, Cam, glad you could join us again. Michael, another one of our co-hosts, says Halloween exploration themes I've used: fog, absolutely fog, night, cornfields, cornfields. Listen, don't sleep on cornfields, especially cornfields, wheat, tall grasses and things. It's I think it can be used for a great effect. It's been used for great effect in a ton of horror flicks, and there's something cool about it because it's like a visual barrier that, of course, in classic Dungeons and Dragons or fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons, night vision doesn't work through fog and cornfields. Anyway, cornfields, strangeness, like odd effects. We're going to get into that. Harvest festivals. Yep, cave complexes filled with bugs, ghostly visits to campfires. Exactly. And I think we can mechanize creepy feelings and thick fog. Fog can be, in fifth edition, there's light obscurement and heavy obscurement, and we can use that as well. Maybe even, as a matter of fact, in fog, there's a reason why you're not really supposed to use bright lights in fog, because you kind of make a light dome, which could be pretty interesting as well, because you could actually give the characters a greater ability to see within their light dome, but giving them, it might be extremely difficult to see outside the light dome in heavy fog. And then, of course, a lot of these things, like when fog rolls in and nighttime falls, that they're are nocturnal animals and things: rats, bats, snakes, that kind of stuff, especially when you're turning the volume up on creepy things out there in the night. All right. um, and I love campfires. Yes. Deadman says equinox is summer and winter, solstice is spring and fall. Yeah, okay, there it is. Yeah, because they represent the transition, usually through time periods that the days get longer and shorter, or they are equalized in their time distance, I guess. Mm-mm-mm. Let's see. Deadman says backwards. Solstice is spring and fall. Solstice is spring and fall. Solstice is winter and summer. Oh yeah, solstice is winter and equinox is winter and summer. Solstice is spring and fall. Here we go. Cameron mentions why don't we go hide in that Yeah, yeah, yeah. I said that to Ian yesterday. Like, why don't we go hide in that running car? You're like, what are you crazy? Let's go hide behind those chainsaws. That's a that's a running theme in horror that you don't we all accept that you're not really supposed to do the smart thing. Um not that you're supposed to play stupid, but you know, but it actually brings up the point that to ramp up tension many times, one of the tropes of horror is limited safe spaces. There are almost every horror story is told in a enclosed space. Now, that enclosed space doesn't necessarily need to be a house or a basement or something. It can be a small town that might be cut off, like 30 Days of Night. They were trapped up, in a bunch of small buildings, a small population, but there's this idea that there's a greater world out there. You just can't get to it. There's no safe spaces, and so that happens to be one of them. That's why cars stop running. There's no cell phone coverage. The authorities don't believe you, or they can't get there, or the distance is very far. That kind of thing. Mike says also swamps, dark forests, shadows that talk, that are not undead. Villages filled with strange new peoples. Yeah, it's the classic, um, tree branch scraping against the window because of the wind. So you could actually, the cold chill down the spine kind of effects. And I think you could probably make up a random list of here's a thing that's happening. There's even the idea of shadows with um sharp fangs and glowing eyes, but the shadows are formed by tree branches. But when you see the shadow, it's crazy. It looks like it's like a monstrous entity or something that's not necessarily a shadow with monstrous capabilities. Although you could do that. I don't think there'd be a problem with that. Dead man stuck on the equinox solstice thing. Equinoxes equal day and night, so spring and fall have equinoxes. Summer and winter have solstices. Yeah, 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 yep, yep, yep. It's equal day. It's when the period of time becomes equalized, for equinox, and it's when the periods of time are at their highest. So the most night and the most day for the solstices. Um, mm, 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 mm. Michael says the Shadowfell is totally a Halloween environment. Hell's yes. Though to be honest, I have used a gloaming court, a unseelie Feywild setting as a very effective Halloween setting as well. And listen, the, even if it wasn't true, the Fey would absolutely love themselves some Halloween. Could you imagine them not knowing what it was, and they accept it? They're just like, this is awesome. Although they might have Halloween without knowing what it would be called. Um, Although if you take a look at, if you do just a simple Wikipedia search for Halloween, it actually represents a lot of stuff. It's an amalgam of a lot of history and cultures, and paganism and Christianity, and it's all mixed together. So come on, come on, Sophie, you're the producer. Come have a seat. Yeah, Kitty, come on. Deadman says Ravenloft is a great Halloween setting, and if I'm not mistaken, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft has, oh, I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but they are it's an amalgam of Ravenloft and Fey realms, where these micro realms, like, festivals and small towns and things that you can are created so that players can accidentally go to them and then have to figure their way out of them, right? So it's kind of like, oh, that's your brushy brush. Um, it's kind of like like how Ravenloft was designed. The player characters fall into Ravenloft and he can't leave. And I mean, again, limited location, safety on the outside, but you're stuck in a place where it's very unsafe. That's a very common thing for Halloween. If you want to go science fiction, starships, or abandoned starships are a perfect location for that, or habitats that are like players have to visit it, and they get the proverbial um, deep space safety alarm or something like that, uh, where they send out a signal to for or the garbled radio signal or something like that, and the players arrive and then everyone's dead, and the power, there's always like flickering lights even though they'd probably be LED, but whatever. But it's very cool. Michael says the Underdark is very Halloween. Okay. Darkness, yep, glowing crystals, giant mushrooms, weird monsters, dark cultures, slavery, giant fucking words carving subway tunnels. It's creepy as hell. Yeah. And a lot of what we would consider like monstrous encounters, we can, if you want to do something very simple, take some of your favorite monstrous types of encounters and turn them into environmental encounters. Like it- what I mean is shadows and creepy sounds and things like that. You can add them into the background, like if you want to take, well, banshees or shadows or ghosts or treants or something like that, and just leave them implanted in a particular location. And then when the players go into those locations with the cold wind, you can use spell effects like gust of wind or um what's another one? Ray of Frost and things like that, and just use them as environmental effects that when the players stumble into a particular location, that's what happens. And then you can have random things happen like waves of rats or flocks of bats flying by or that one black cat that's a bad omen or what have you. And of course, the classic black cat that is the familiar of the hag could always be in the background. And especially for some players who really don't like to kill cute things, the black cat that's watching the player characters the entire time might literally be the familiar of the hag or the hag's coven or something like that, and keeping an eye on the player characters throwing things in their way. Michael says if you want to creep out a group of players, have them walk into what looks like an ordinary town, but no one talks. They simply wander about doing simple tasks in a robotic manner. Oh yeah, I had I used a small town where the people didn't talk. They were pale, their eyes were wide, and they just stared at the player characters. Like the player characters would go into like a place to eat, and the people would just turn and stare at them, without judgment. And the players would just like look at them like their hands in front of their eyes, like I'd like to get a drink, and then people just stare, and then it'd be like three heartbeats, and then they slowly pour person a drink or give them a key to a room or something. But people didn't talk to them, and they were just like, "What the fuck? Like, what's going on?" Yeah, yeah. Michael says, "I was writing a village setting where everyone died and their souls inhabited tiny wooden or rag dolls. Ugh. The people were cursed to exist in these containers. The trick would be if the players could discover the remains of the people where they bury them properly, or where remains of the people were, and bury them properly. Thus, in the curse before going on a rampage and killing all the animated toys. Yeah, COVID killed that plan. That's a horror story unto itself. That's actually a very good uh, um, going back to your comment about like discovering remains and spirits and things. That's a great way to insert like ghosts and demons and other horrors that are attached to a curse or something, where the players could solve the situation without necessarily beating things about the head and shoulders, right? Like a full town of ghastly creatures might overwhelm the party, but maybe they can run and hide and maneuver around them by figuring out what happened in this small town, like who murdered them, or maybe they all murdered each other because of some even greater evil that caused them to the hag that granted everyone their wish, but their wish was pretty decadent. And so the the husband that comes home and sees the wife with the best friend in bed or something and kills her and him, and then he goes out and kills himself, and then they're all spirits or whatnot. And it might be a good way for the players to like, oh, I know how to solve the situation. And the barbarian's like, yeah, but I want to hit things. And it's like, yeah, we might not want to do that too much. Michael says you can take nearly any monstrous encounter and turn it into a Halloween one shot. You know, players are notorious for trying to tame beasts or monsters, but if you play out an owlbear encounter with suspense, ooh, suspense in a trail of bodies like a werewolf movie, you have a horror movie. You know what? That's something else. Where owlbear? the, that's something else that I think is undersold and underdeserved in Dungeons and Dragons. Like, yes, outside of game, we talk about things like owlbears and goblins and ghosts and shadows and maybe some of the other undead like mummies and vampires and wights and things and other fey creatures. But there's no rule that says that when the players see a monster or creature, and this is just a general rule, um, suggestion, don't don't tell the players what it is. Describe what they see, right? So a vampire could very easily be mistaken for a ghost or a wight or a wraith based on the circumstances. Like if your vampire doesn't, bite someone on the neck and drain their blood, but instead like stands over their body and sucks out their soul, um, maybe that's a better descriptor for your adversary. The player characters might not know exactly what that is. Like, do the players really know the difference between, say, a shadow and a wraith and a banshee and a ghost? Probably not, unless you tell them. So they may not know that those are goblins. They just know what you described. They may not know that there's an owlbear. You just described the the horrors that were inflicted by this thing that was driven mad or something. Same thing with like dire animals. I wish there was just a dire category, like or a dire. I mean, it's very easy to do, but like a dire overlay on. Maybe there's a ranger and druid in a party that's like, I don't want to kill innocent animals, but maybe the dire in game. I know out of in the real world that's not what it means, but the dire affliction might be something that prevents. It's like the ranger just like, you know what, I got to put this creature down, and I know it's a majestic wolf or something like that, but a dire wolf, you got to put dire wolves down because it might be the equivalent of like rabies in but a fantasy version of the same. A dead man says the subrealms of Ravenloft are called domains. Yes, the subrealms, the domains are these, I guess you could call them like micro worlds or whatever. And you could steal that for anything. Like, oh, there's a dark carnival, which I talked about yesterday. There's a dark carnival, and you go into the carnival, and whenever you try to leave the carnival, you just wander in the woods and you see the carnival again after pushing through the hedge maze or something like that. Michael says, I ran a quick dungeon simply by reskinning things to create an aliens game. Okay. Giant centipedes were reskinned as Ankeg nymphs. Ooh, and a black dragon was reskinned as an Ankeg queen. That was baller. Oh yeah. You know what? Well, we can go through the whole reskin tool, right? Just change first of all, you could change a creature type anytime you want to. Slap undead on something and you're done. Take something and change it from beast to construct or whatnot. And again, reskinning a dragon, and make it something else. Make it insectoid or whatever, which I love. I love that idea. We've got too many dragon. We've got too many dragon stat blocks not to use them. Even though everybody loves dragons, we really don't see them too often, which is kind of weird. Cameron mentions, I think it would be fun to do a Scooby Doo one shot. Ooh, let me see if I can do my best Scooby Doo. Zoinks! Ruh-oh! Raggy! Oh, man. Quote, I would have raised that dead god and given him the power of the moon crystal. Oh, there it is. I got to do the voice. I would have raised that dead god and given him the power of the moon crystal, forge of Avalon Prime, if it weren't for you meddling kids. Yeah, if it wasn't for you meddling kids, I'd have gotten away with it. Oh man, they always pull off the mask and they're just like, Mr. Willoughby. Mike Gould says, take a rift on old Fey legends and have children kidnapped by goblins replaced with straw dolls. Ooh, have this occur just out of sight or just as torchlight touches upon the event. The players see the players see a glimmer in the eyes, shiny skin, and hear a screaming child. Then the kid is pulled through a hole in the floor or similar. Ow, 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 ow. You know what? Honestly, the a lot of our fairy tales have a lot of horrible things happen to children. And I understand the reason why the stories were to keep children safe and keep them from wandering out and getting hurt in the wilderness. So you give kids these scary stories so that they don't want to do those things. A lot of the like Greek and Roman mythology was based around that with like anecdotal, I mean, parables about behavior and life in general. But man, some of those original stories and whatnot, and Aesop's fables and stuff. It's like crazy, dangerous things that happen to kids. Um, it's so bad. Okay, Deadman mentions that there are currently 48 domains in Ravenloft. I bet there's rules to make your own. I would say there's probably 48 that people have survived leaving. The rest of them, their people are still stuck there. Like, get me the out of here. Anyway, goes on to say that domains equal demi-planes, and Ravenloft, yep, Ravenloft is a demi-plane. And mind you, listen, there's no rule about it. Ravenloft is like a place to go your PCs can't leave. You could come up with that for anything if you really want to. Yeah, Cameron says a corn maze. People go missing. Yep, corn mazes and stuff. I love a lot of the like corn mazes and apple bobbing and like all the festival type things. And that would be actually, now that I think about it, what a cool concept for like a druid maybe having to do like a slash and burn, help the village slash and burn fields and the kids or villagers lost in the cornfield, and the PCs have to run through a cornfield, and that that would be awesome because let's in a cornfield you would have cover from visual being able to see anyone. And remember, and I've brought this up before, a lot of spells require you to see your allies and your enemies, especially your allies if you want to do like healing, bless, protections, and to target your enemies. So that magic missile spell, despite the fact it never misses, if you can't see your enemies, then you can't aim at them. And so hiding and running around in the cornfields might be more adversaries than the PCs know about. Like instead of going, oh, there's 37 Ankhegs out here, they might only be able to see 3 of them through the corn maze, even though they can hear plenty more. Michael says, at the out of box encounter. I have an out of the box encounter around that. 1 crow, 2 crow, scarecrow. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, I like that. I like the kobold dragon one too. The fake I think it's kobolds. They had the fake dragon. Everyone thought it was real, and then they stuff like that. They had it breathing fire and whatnot. They're like extorting money out of the population. That's cool. Cameron says, turns out the corn maze is eating people, and its stomach leads to Transylvania. Ooh, get lost in it and start aging. 12 years later, they're like, I can't find the exit. Mm-mm-mm. Also, a good way to ambush people as well. That'd be kind of cool to ambush enemies, ambushing the player characters and pulling them into the deeper parts of the corn maze where they can't be seen, or or heck, any burrowing type creature is pretty dangerous as well. Michael says, consider a dungeon, okay, air quotes dungeon, that populates itself with the remains of or twisted versions of everyone who tried to explore it. The dungeon itself is alive. Wow. Twist, twist, twist the mustache. Yeah, hell's yes. Hell yeah. And you know what you could do? You could populate it with all the people the PCs killed. It'd be packed. It'd be packed to congestion. There would be no elbow room and stuff. All the ogres and giants trying to like push their way through all the monstrous beasts and aberrants that were in there and stuff. That'd be kind of funny. But anyway, yeah, there's even I think even some of the smaller things that we don't think about. Like we did talk about the darkness and the fog. I suppose you could add in some rain and thunderstorms in there as well, or heat lightning, where you have thunder without the rain. And for creepiness and creepiness effects and things, maybe it's a matter of like hearing things in the distance and whatnot. Anything to get the players to move, um, anything to get the players to act and react, to make a decision, to keep the energy flowing, which is why I'm a proponent of exploration, because oftentimes we hear they call it the 5 minute day, where the player characters get into a big battle, blah, 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 hit things, boom, punch things in the throat. And then what do? They take a short rest, long rest. And every time, the next time an enemy comes around, they go Nova, boom, 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 let's take another rest. And they fight again, let's take another long rest. And it's like, well, mm, that doesn't that doesn't exactly sound right. But giving players too many opportunities to take back to back rests over and over again means that the place isn't as dangerous as one would seem. So if there are wandering ghosts and banshees around that are not necessarily specifically after the player characters, but they're just hanging around, it's the idea of like the zombie apocalypse, right? You can, yeah, sure, if the zombies are shamblers and not runners, that sure, the player characters can out walk the walkers, but if they rest, they'll get more and more and more. And if they see 3 or 5 or 10, they know there's more where that they may come from. And so doing that for Halloween, where, oh, that black cat is an omen because there's going to be flocks of ravens and ghosts and witches coming by or something like that. Um, People that have been enchanted or hypnotized, and then instead of zero level humans now, because of the hypnotism, you use another stat block, like, I don't know, ogres or something, because they have preternatural strength or whatnot, because of the possession of that's taken over their bodies and whatnot. Or hell, you could even have a whole plot of ghosts that have possessed all the people in a town, reliving some past event, and the ghosts are just hopping from body to body to relive the thing that made them the way they are. So yeah. Cameron even brings up James and the giant peach is pretty weird. Yeah, yeah, yeah. James the giant peach. What's another one? The oh, now my brain is going. I instantly thought of a bunch of things like Jack and the Beanstalk, Paul Bunyan stories, um, a lot of those things. Oh, what's the one about not Puff the Magic Dragon? I can't think of the story right now off the top of my head. There's one about a kid that befriends a dragon. Maybe it is Puff the Magic Dragon. Anyway, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's something else. Anyway, Mike Gould says, since I interview my players about their characters instead of accepting backgrounds, I will populate this location with their fears and desires. Yeah, I'm that bastard. You're not a bastard, but it is cool to populate a place with people's fears and guilts and frustrations, even if it's not like a direct relative that died that came back to life. Maybe it's uh, a failure or a guilt the player had in their past, and a very similar situation happens, like, the player character that left their home and didn't return, but they left their younger brothers and sisters in a perilous situation, and then all of a sudden they see some young kids that are kind of in the same situation, like, that reminds them of their younger brother and sister, and it's like, ooh, I can make amends maybe if I help them out and whatnot. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Did me toss the mic like Channel Zero No End House. I forgot there. Channel Zero. I never saw that. A haunted house that copies the people that go inside it and sends back imposters. That's pretty bad too. That would be pretty terrible too, like a body snatchers kind of thing. Maybe even maybe there's like a apothecary, herbalist, artificer, mutilator that's like a Frankenstein-ish type of person, maybe using people's bodies and whatnot. Cam says, "How would y'all adjudicate a player using gust of wind to force a ghost away from them? Also, if this works, does this mean I can suck up ghosts with a vacuum cleaner?" Yeah, and, I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, ghosts are ethereal. Wind has no effect. I would. Here's how I would adjudicate that. It would, to me, spell level and see challenge rating are have parity, right? So you could never fool a demon with a cantrip because like fiends, let's say outer world creatures, fiends are so high a level that cantrips are completely useless against them in the sense that you would never fool them with that. A gust of wind would fool something mindless, like if you had mindless ghosts that are just used as a like to make wisdom saves and intelligence saves and charisma saves to avoid like maybe having some kind of like mental confusion or something and they run away, then maybe maybe I would allow that. But like a real ghost that has like a full personality, no, 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 no. And where are you getting this vacuum cleaner? Like, are there like gnomish artificer vacuum cleaning services or something that I don't know about in your world? I don't know. But no, go and creatures that can go ethereal aren't affected by physical things. Now, I would let a gust of wind blow away fog at least temporarily. And why wouldn't you could also have gusts of wind just happening in your environment, right? Why wouldn't that be a thing? Also, um giving your world a bit of verisimilitude, the idea that the cold chill down the spine, maybe in this realm or this world or during this particular period of time, gust of wind isn't what you think it is. Like, yeah, in a normal day, oh, it's a nice cool breeze. Here, that's like a necrotic miasma. Like that's not real wind. That's just a creeping cold that's like um it's wind that sucks the life out of something, and if the players stay here they're just going to have more and more of their life sucked away from them if they don't get moving, like the effects of being touched by a shadow where you lose strength or something, or they suffering the if you fail saves you start suffering necrotic damage or something like that, and it's literally like a creeping cold chill, or maybe it is absolutely cold and your skin starts turning pale and blue and ice crystals start working on you if you don't keep on moving or something. I mean, we've seen that plenty of times where before a ghost shows up, a one of our protagonists breathes out and they breathe out a cold that what's it called, condensation breath, out of their mouth, and you're like, man, it got really chilly around here, and then the ghost shows up, and that might be a really fun way to tease an adversary that's coming after them like a ghost, where the players are like, and you tell the players one more time, well, you step around the corner, all of a sudden you get this weird, chill down your spine, and your breath blows out like you that time you went up into the Arctic North, and the police are like, the ghosts are coming through the walls, let's get the hell out of here, even though it may or may not be happening. That'd be kind of cool as well. Also, lots of like pumpkins and lanterns might be lit. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Deadman says Luigi's Mansion has a vacuum you can use to suck up ghosts. Really? Um, maybe player characters might have to open up their own Ghostbusters and suck up the ghosts in the little the with the ectoplasmic, projectors or something of that nature. Although doing a one shot or a world where players are vampire hunters, witch hunters, exorcists, and things of that nature would be kind of cool for a Halloween ish styled theme as well. Um, There's also the idea of another horrible thing are spaces that do not correspond to physics. Running down a hallway that keeps getting longer, or opening a door into a room, and when you walk into the room, it's the identical room you just left, and you open up the door at the other end of the room, and when you go through that door, it's the same room you just left, and it keeps going on. You know, it's the walk down the hallway, and it looks like it fades into the distance, but really what's happening is the end of the hallway starts to shrink, and when you get to the end of the hallway, you're shrunk down or something like that. Or the maze, well, maybe this is more like carnivalistic, but the maze of mirrors, and things step out of the mirrors that are a mutation of yourself. Going back to what you comment before, Mike's comment about using the characters' backgrounds and their backgrounds, their personalities, and their experiences, and then populating a town with things that touch upon that. Maybe like a room of mirrors creates these um, bent bent shaped versions of the player characters, that kind of thing. And we could go on with a carnival and stuff like that. Carnival barkers and jugglers and acrobats and bearded woman and the snake man and all that kind of business. Mike says, similar vein, for a past campaign where I actually played. I know it's likely a myth. We actually played. Okay, I've fleshed out my PC's noble background by describing the family. Ah, Veritas Mortez of House Mortez. House Mortez is a combination of House Lannister and the Adams family. Yeah, I love that. A collection of the weird, freakish, and odd. Why not? Why not? Why can't a player character have a family that's oh no, they're human ish. The player character that wants to play like the lycanthrope touched, or the Dompier uh touched character might have a family like the Adams family. That'd be awesome. That's awesome. Cameron says, now I want to play in a League of Extraordinary Men and Van Helsing mixed game. Yeah, 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 yeah. The League of Extraordinary Men where they're going after. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, those characters would be easy to make. You know, Invisible Man drinking potions and turning invisible and whatnot. And oh, what is her name? Not Harkon. I was about to say Harkonnen. Harkness. Anyway, the the forced mistress of Dracula, who was then bitten and was a character in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. She always wore this flowing red scarf to cover up the bite marks on her neck and stuff. Yeah. Picture of Dorian Gray. Mike says, I have a largest document describing them, too large for this format. That's awesome. Describing the whole family. You definitely suffer from world builder's disease. I can see it. Dead Man says, Luigi's Mansion was a game on the GameCube. I I recognize the name. I don't recognize the game. Mm-mm. Now, I will. An example. Here we go. Example of the characters of note of House Mortez. Of course, Mort being a Mort death afterlife. Anyway, Auntie Madeline Mortez has a um really pretty until you realize has a really pretty face until you realize that isn't her face. It's borrowed. She has quite a collection. Yeah, has a pretty face. I realize you said that. She has quite a collection. And here's another thing too. We can describe classic Dungeons and Dragons actions, but just make them really creepy. Like you guys know I don't like body horror, but it works. Like anything with where someone has taken somebody else's skin and used it as like a mask or an overlay, like like giant intelligent ankhegs that like use human skin over their faces with like safety pins, thinking that it makes them blend into the environment or something. Or like you say, like a very aristocratic individual that has like the domino masks with the little handles that you hold up to your face, but when they hold it up to their face, the face is living and real for them, but they can just take the face off and there's nothing but like maggots and skin underneath it or something. How a creature eats or feeds, or what kind of transformative measure they look like. Like ghosts don't need to look like they are in white pale robes with chains. They can look like how they were killed just before they were killed. A banshee screaming out makes perfect sense for the banshee to have keep reenacting the event that caused their death, and it might be quite gruesome and whatnot. Any monster that looks like a small child with a in dirty clothes dragging a dirty doll behind it is pretty horrible. Take a hag or something and make it a small kid, an undead kid or something. Valadia Auclair Mortez, Duchess of Hope's Ending. I know I butchered the pronunciation. Since Lucius does not do public appearances, they have a matriarch as their current regent. She is a late middle-aged, fading beauty of remarkable refinement and power. Something of a dual personality, as she is soft spoken and gentle with family, vicious and bloodthirsty with enemies. She is both feared and loved. There's a huge collection of these. Also, uh, I'm going to say dichotomous things placed together are always horrible. You always see children's items covered in like insects, maggots, webs, dirt. Always seems to make things very creepy. Usually, innocence marred by decadence. It tends to have a creepiness to it, like uh, dirty wedding dresses are a thing, or anything that's any place that's blood splattered that is normally considered to be pristine, like a bedroom or a kitchen or um, a religious institution or something of that nature. Also, uh, leaving lots of hints and things, especially when we're talking about exploration. The exploration part of this might be to solve the puzzle of the thing that cannot be solved by brute force. So, for example, if this small town, there was great horrors that happen in a small town, and it keeps happening over and over again, and no matter how many times the player characters destroy the ghosts keep coming back. The banshee keeps screaming, the vampires keep rising, the undead keep coming back to the town. It might be that the player characters need to solve to lay the spirits to rest, and that's a very common witch hunter, demon hunter kind of thing where you know what the ghosts are unsettled. Hell, they might even be screaming at the player characters in their ears like, please save us. We keep going through this over and over again. But it would be pretty cool to have these different small like family drama style horrors happening over and over again, and the players are happen to be part of it. Yeah, pretty crazy. Yeah, Mike. Mike describes. There's a little girl who wanders Hope's Ending, Fortress of House Mortez. She looks about 8, but is actually very old. Happens to be a great old one warlock. Yeah, yeah, kids. Making them liches and stuff. Yeah, yeah. The groundskeeper is a half ogre that has a tendency to eat trespassers. Yep, etc., etc. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Again, uh, who is this individual that showed up? I don't think. Nah, see, yeah, see, he's not going to show. It won't show an emoji on the restream. Doesn't show emojis, but that's cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like Shatar says, that little girl's probably an anime character. Yeah, little murder girls with bloody knives and whatnot, or like a bloody pair of scissors or something like that. Yeah. Ugh. Now, something else that's really cool about Halloween is it gives us a perfect excuse to stack monsters to make BFF creatures that are really cool for us to use, especially if while the player characters are wandering around, they discover what the hell the thing is. Like for example, it's very cool to mix like an animated creature with like a ghostly creature or um undead. And one of my favorite is like zombies and skeletons, but you stack on top of them like insects and maggots and or flocks of like bats or ravens overhead, or there's like snakes and slithering inside the dead bodies or something like that. And I mean, you could make a lot of those things. No, 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 Mofa, you were just having you were tossing in your sleep through the nightmarish images that we were conjuring. That's what happened. You're all right. Oh man. But yeah, having little murder girls walking around and the player characters are like, "Oh, we've got to save the little girl," and she's just like, got the like the deep eyebrows, hand behind the back, like, "Want some candy? Oh, that's my knife. Sorry." Mm-mm-mm. Michael says the tendency for players is to make tragic figures. My character lost their parents and so on. Yeah, yeah, sure do. I made Veritas to have a happy childhood when you're a tiefling and accepted as normal because yeah, because everyone else is odd. It tends to give a person no fear of appearances. I love players who make real families. Now, sure, you could have like family drama. And I wanted to start one where there was a player who made a wizard. He's like, oh, my wizard's like he wasn't an outcast, but he's like awkward and a little bit overweight. And his brother was like the handsome warrior that went off and came back and was going to get married and was going to get married to a girl that was growing up, but his character liked the girl and whatnot. And I was like, that's really cool. I like that. I like the idea of coming home to a place and having roots. I think I know player characters. That's where the murder hobo comes from. Where that's where the hobo part of murder comes from. The murder hobo part where you're just like each player character's got a stick with like a satchel attached to bandana with your stuff attached into it, and you're just walking along the road and going from place to place. I don't have a home. I have no connections, and it's pretty silly. Deadman says like Babette from Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, an ancient vampire who was embraced at a young age and is some 500 plus years old. Yes, that's one dark thing about vampirism, that if you were to take human society and layer on top of it vampirism, the most ancient vampires would all be very young. Because even an old person in the past who's embraced as a vampire would be what, in their late 30s, maybe if you're lucky 40s, right? But most of them would be teenage. I would say between 10, no, 8 to like 20 for most of your ancient vampires, probably, if you were to statistically do it, because most vampires would embrace the healthiest in their brood, because you would just kill off the bad ones, right? So if you're too old, you just get killed off. But your healthiest ones, the ones you would want to embrace and bring into your immortal brood, would be the ones around your own age, and the or what you would perceive as the optimal age group for healthiness. And so as our age, when we start hitting 100 and 110 and 120 years old and beyond, what we consider adolescent is probably going to start vacillating as well. Like, we might think, oh, you're a kid up until 35 to 65, right? Like something like that. Michael says, I wish you could have been there when the party returned home, quote, with Veritas Mortez to Hope's ending. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, I love that stuff. You know what? You do bring up something too, that I wish more players made characters that were part of a family or a family group. I only ran one game. It was a Egyptologically mythological setting where one player was a prince and everybody else was uh they were in exile, so it was a prince, and then everybody else played persons around them. Like one was a mentor to the character, was like a mage. We were playing vampire, mummy, and mixing it together. One person was a werewolf, but they were a jackal werewolf. So another person was a vampire, and they were playing an assassin for the royal family. Somebody else. Anyway, it was like little bits and pieces and whatnot. And the person that played the prince was a human being, from like the Hunter book. Anyway, Michael says, result, one other PC began a romance with a Mortez NPC. Okay. And another multi-class into a warlock after being seduced to the dark side by the house imp. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And here's the other thing. Let's be honest. Most player characters are pretty horrible. Now how fun would it be for the player characters to both have to solve and survive the horrors of Halloween, but then there's regular people who are running around and think the player characters are the horrors that they're running from. Um, y- um, w- Wraith the Oblivion, which is a brilliant White Wolf uh, game book, and I forget the next version of it. The first edition was called Wraith the Oblivion, and I know there's a second one. I can't think of it, but where you play dead characters. That is a somewhat dark and bizarre concept to play a ghost, and you can't really it's difficult to interact with reality, but you have to try and stuff. That's a really cool concept. Mike says, I'm writing a new player family for a new campaign called the Pitch Family. Uh-oh. It takes or Justified meets Dukes of Hazard meets Scooby-Doo. Wow, that's a concoction that I like. And listen, most people won't tell you, but I loved Dukes of Hazzard, the TV show. I know the General Lee flag and the whole 9 yards and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of baggage, but damn, I love that show. Anyway, one female sorcerer begets a whole raft of kids. Oh man. Mm-mm-mm. Oops, I can't read. I can't see the rest of the comment. Damn it. Okay, there's a whole raft of kids and with a whole host of others. The pitch boys might be tieflings, Asimars, half elves, half orcs, etc. The line they use is, "Yes, he's my brother. Can't you see the resemblance?" Yep, yep. All like blood relatives. What is it? Brother from a different mother, sister from a different mister. Um, what is it? Cousin from a different oven. Um, uh, Friend from different blends. Um, I don't know. You could go on and on and on with that if you come up with different ones. Let's see. Cameron mentions a jack o' lantern plus a trebuchet equals medieval pumpkin chunkin. Pumpkin chunkin. Gotta light them on fire and flick those damn things. Yeah, yeah. That man, how we don't have we have to have contests and things like that in our Dungeons and Dragons games, using trebuchets and throwing cars and wagons and like constructs and things like that. Oh, named by the namer. What's going on there? It says, I tend to run human centric campaigns, but with monsters being a lot less in numbers, but also stronger in some ways, other than just hit points. Okay, okay. For example, Goblin with high AC and some hag traits was a blast. You know what? Great. And here, okay, since we're getting to the end here, I want to deviate just a little bit here. Um, the named by the namer mentions something about a human centric campaign, and yes, I'm promoting something. So bear with me here. Um, the level up advanced fifth edition Kickstarter in it has, so you get to pick your heritage, which is your parentage, how you were born, your bloodline, what used to be called race. So you can pick human as opposed to like orc or elf and whatnot, and then you pick your culture, and cultures to be very simplistic, are like subrace. But because they are cultures with the level up, you can do a completely all human campaign and still have the variety of racial features you would normally find by having to be forced to pick a race to have those features. For example, there is a culture called tyrannized, and it is level up's version of like basically an escaped slave. But we didn't, slavery has baggage and people get triggered by those things. So it's called a tyrannized culture. You came from a culture where you were essentially tyrannized. Well, if you pick that one, you have the ability to resist and or harness the power that you were tortured by from being in having escaped that tyrannized culture. And so if you take a look behind the scenes, it's like being a human but having the abilities of a dragonborn. It's really weird. Like maybe you were tortured by aberrants, and so now you have resistance to like psychic power, but once per long rest or short rest, whatever it is, you can let out a blast of psychic energy or something like that. But anyway, it's just a way to have a humanocentric world and still have the variety of the different races without the player characters going, yeah, but I want to play a tiefling, because tieflings get something really cool. Yeah, Mike brings up like there's a whole bunch of others, a whole host of others. Um, I have a Asimar wizard named Argos with a sidekick, tiefling thug brother named Kryptos. Okay, they're named after noble gases because they don't mix well with others. That's funny. That's really cute. Somebody's got to play some version of Xenon or something. Argon, Xenon, Crypto. Yeah, that's funny. I'm using Walter Goggins as an inspiration for Argo's accent and demeanor. What you can't go wrong doing a Walter Goggins impression. Yeah. Fetch it, Damash. Fetch it, Damash. Moo. Run away, run away. Name My Namer mentions, you're really going to make me put money in this Kickstarter, aren't you? I'm just listen, I'm 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 just happy to be part of it. But honestly, it was created through N World is huge. And so they put out surveys, and the design was from the surveys. It wasn't done in a vacuum. This is what people wanted. They were like, I want to run a game with low magic. And they were like, well, you can literally, with level up, you can literally run a zero magic campaign, because there's like over 165 martial maneuvers. So you could have like television and movies. Most of television movies don't, it's pretty low magic. Most people are warrior types. They're fighters. They've got blades and hammers and shields and armor and bow and arrows, and they're martial types. You could really do it that. Next week I'm going to be doing, because it'll be the end of the Kickstarter, November 5th ends the Kickstarter. So I'll be doing next week, and we'll be taking a look at that for the show. Lastly, before I get out of here, um, let me just say, and I need your opinions, honest opinions, because this is going to be a rough one. But I'm getting to the point at work where we're going to have to start coming in early, and so should I move the show a half hour earlier to 5:30? I might even have to move it to 5, but I couldn't do that, because I want to have to move the show to 5:30 and try to make it a half hour early, or cancel the show, or cut the show super short, because they're going to start having us come in early because we package delivery and we don't have any staff, and people are retiring and not filling those positions, and we can't hire anybody. It's pretty bad. But so just think about it. I'm gonna put a post up over the weekend, probably like a poll and whatnot, and just say like, okay, half hour early or cancel the show. Now I've done, for those who are new, you guys know that I had to every year, usually end of November through December, I've just had to cancel the show because they're bringing us in like an hour early, 2 hours early, and whatnot. Um, so in order to do the shows, then it'd have to start at like 4:30 in the morning, and that's crazy. So, well, see, here's the deal, right? Um, I and listen, I hear you saying about me burning myself out, but I'll say that selfishly, this means more to me than you think, right? Like, um, the reason is because if I don't have something to listen, I have my evening and I have my daylight, and my evening, what I strive to get home to is my family and my wife and stuff like that. In the mornings, eyes, sealed shut from from Heg brothels and stuff like that. I need my gaming fix, and so I gotta do something. I gotta. That's like you had guys haven't been. You don't know anything about this, but I've been like, I gotta turn off the monetization on these videos because I know some people were kept away because of like the commercials, and I don't see any ads, but I know some of you see some of them, so I'm thinking about cutting those out and stuff because I don't need all the monetization and all that kind of business. It might be necessary sometime in the future with like, I don't know, 80,000 subscribers if I ever get it. That'll never happen. But my point being is like I would never be able to respond to people's comments that way unless there was a barrier, a filter, and like super chats would have to probably be something like that. But I don't know. Yeah, Cam says 5:30 sounds good to me, and Mike says can't make it earlier. I know, shit. Here in the states, if you're in our time zones, it's pretty damn early. It would be 2:30. If I was 5:30, it'd be 2:30 in the morning on the West Coast. Shit. Michael says, I'll just comment later after the show is over, but I'm in bed 10 to 11 and up at 6:30. I can't do earlier, so I'll just respond to the videos later on. Yeah, like I said, I haven't, it's not in concrete. So, and I would rather, I don't want to be a talking head. I prefer to interact with people. Like, uh, so that's part of it too, right? Um, So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's getting. I God. I can't wait to retire. See, I'm literally like 5 to 6 years away from retirement, and I cannot wait. Oh my God, I can't wait. These grays are. Every one of these grays has a name on it. Every boss I worked with. Every. I can't wait. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, dude. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, right. Eternal shiny and chrome, y'all. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Name says I just got the chance to be able to listen. So it'd be great to continue. 5:30 is fine. Do you? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Michael says maybe a weekend show. I thought about that too. Rough spot. We all support you. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I I want to continue the show. I don't want to get burnt out, but I also don't want to do like pod fade because that happens. Podcasters, streamers, content creators will start to like pull their show back, and then when they start to pull back, it's hard to get back into it again. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Wade's like yeah, retired to a full time DM probably. Oh. You no doubt. No, when I retired, this is like you I refuse to be a greeter at Walmart. Like that is not me. This will be I will have I'm 51. So when I retire, my retirement date optimal date is 57. I've got like a year and 3 months of like sick leave saved up. I've got like 2,300 hours of sick leave or something. It's crazy. I started when I was very young. So I got a ton of sick leave that I can use that stacks onto my retirement time. So hopefully I can leave, you know, do an early out or something like that. But hell yeah, full time, I'll do this full time. Well, it'll be part time for me, but it would be my full time job. I'll have this plus my retirement and until I hit like 65 to get like Social Security and stuff like that. Multi-part thing, whatever. Yeah. Is it Ride? Yeah, yeah, Dead Man. Ride Eternal, Haunted in Chrome. Come on, Mike. He's like, yeah, 55 here, likely will not retire until I'm broken. Ouch. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Stupid hustle culture. Yeah, name by the namer says, yeah, maybe twice a week for live chats. That's what something like that. Like I've recorded videos. Like you guys know that I've recorded videos talking about level up. It doesn't have to be about that, but I've done videos, short and sweet, 10 to 15 minutes. I could put them on a channel and then put up other live chats. Yeah, I'm gonna have to juggle it. Oof, oof. Yeah, welcome to the ununionized printing industry. Yeah, and now with problems with um delivery of merchandise, especially here in the States and things like that, and staff shortages and people quitting jobs and what it's crazy. So we'll it'll right itself, but man, we're going to go through a rough patch. It's crazy. But anyway, guys, I got to get out of here. First of all, thank you for being brilliant and just bringing your energy and all that kind of stuff. Where do I? Wayne says, where do you play or do you? I don't have a gaming group any longer. I used to have a physical gaming group, and I don't have one any longer. I moved from my home in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, here back in 2000, and then I've kept up with them electronically, and then I built another group of people. So I have a group of, let's just say, I don't think it would be difficult for me to reach out to people and join groups. There's actually some YouTubers out there that were like, dude, if you want to join our group, that'd be great, especially for some like live plays and actual plays and things. It's just the timing. That's my thing. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Mike's like, yep, materials and shipping shortages are hitting us all. It's crazy, especially raw materials now are becoming a problem. Like, um, I'm going to say textiles and other materials like glue, wood, steel, plastics, raw materials that make other materials are starting to get to the point where like plastic goods are going to spike up, paper goods are going to spike up, um, things made from petroleum are going to spike up. It's crazy, 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 wild. Of course, gas prices, like, I don't know, they went up a good 50 to 80% here. So I was normally paying around $2 a gallon, and it's already like three plus. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Right. That's why I brought that up. Yep. Like you said, Mike, you're like, I'm in textiles, screen printer. Yep. Yeah. Those things are crazy. Yeah. Wayne. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Wayne. Yeah. I would, I don't know how much of a professional DM I would be, but I'd run games. I do live streams and all that. Hell, if I was retired, shit, I the world would be my oyster. Anyway, I got to get out of here. I got another long day. Another, I don't know, 12-hour, 14-hour day. Sucks, but whatever. All right, guys. I'll see you later. California. Damn. Shit. Deadman says California is up to nearly $7 a gallon. Yeah, California has always been expensive, and it's brutal. The gas price. Oh my god. Well, California is a whole nother. We could do a whole. We could do a whole week of like different states in the United States as role playing fodder and how different like California, New York, Texas, well, New York City technically, California specifically would be Los Angeles, but California is as a state is really, it's like, do they live in the real world? That they don't. They're not really part of the real world, are they? It's crazy. And I know Dead Man's probably like clickety clack. I could show you stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, guys, everybody have a great one. I'm getting out of here. I will post up something over the weekend, like maybe a poll or a question or something like that, and whatnot. Yeah, and hell, when I retire, I'll be discording it. I'll be, oh man, the plans. Yep. Guys, have a great one. I'll see you later.